I'm actually doing pretty good these days. For that reason, I want to update my video quality. You see, I am seeking a higher education, and due to that fact, I wanted to improve the quality of my video and talk about this episode of a show that I consider one of the most absurd masterpieces of television cinema. And that episode is Rubber Duck from the TV series Henry Danger. Henry Danger is about this kid called Henry Hart who was seeking a job and ended up being the sidekick for this superhero, indestructible superhero, Captain Man, who protects this certain city. And the whole show surrounds on how Henry manages his life as a superhero and as a regular kid. This episode is different because this episode doesn't have Kid Danger or Captain Man. Today I want to go into a deep dive to every scene and every line and try to break down why this episode is so nice. So the episode starts with Henry, close shot of Henry, telling us that he's having the same dream every night. I want you to focus on one thing and one thing clearly. He is sitting on his couch. Just hold on in. The dream is about him going to work on this tiny car. And once he gets to work, he goes on this elevator that takes you to the man cave, the secret bunker for Captain Man and his operation. So when he gets there, there's this girl that is making something. We find out that the girl is making beads. So Henry approaches the girl. Once he is close enough to look closer, she is his best friend Jasper. And the dream ends like that every time. When we come back to Henry telling the story, look where he is. He is at a dining table. So that beginning scene of him zooming in, him sitting on the couch right there, doesn't make sense. If he's telling this story on the dining table to his sister, is Henry having a dream right now? And why would they have this weird zoom-in scene? Then, Henry and Piper's parents come down the stairs telling them that they're about to leave. Henry's father comes to Henry and asks him to record him. Henry's father continues telling him that he doesn't want him to play with this vintage car model that he has, which is very precious to him. And later we find out it's also very expensive. Henry doesn't want to even play, but his father warns him either way. Later, Henry's mother also warns him to not touch this spoiled day. Then we find out that Piper is driving her parents to the airport. There's a running gag in the show that Piper had got her driving license by mistake. It's a running gag where everybody's shocked that she could drive somebody, and she said, I got it, and they said, oh my god, you got it by mistake, which is nice. The continuity is nice. We also meet Charlotte, another recurring character, Henry's friend, who's going with Piper to watch a movie. Another thing I want to point out is how the parents told him that Henry shouldn't have any parties, and the only friends he could bring to the house is Charlotte or Jasper. And they clarified that they want Charlotte only. First thing we have, Henry mixes sweet tea and soda and eats corn. These things represent something in Henry. You see, throughout the show and the first seasons, Henry's life just seems to be stressful, yeah, but he never pointed out what toll being a psychic had on his life. That Captain Man made a 13-year-old make an oath to give up his life to become a superhero. I believe that the sweet tea represents Henry's life before he became a superhero. Sweet tea is associated with the luxury and relaxation, what you would drink on a hot day at the beach, and you're rich and the beach is yours. Oh, make sure to look at the house, where he didn't have to stress about almost dying because of an explosion chased by an invisible dude who wants you to quit your job, and you said no, so he's at your house. He hits your leg with a bat. It's a weird situation. And the soda, which represents consumerism in the life or buy that we have after the Industrial Revolution, that represents him as Kid Danger, the stress, the constant need to better up himself as a superhero, and also have to live a normal life. Captain Man dedicated himself to just protecting Swellview, which is a town they live and they protect. It's obvious that he didn't have a normal childhood or a normal life, which resulted in this man-child kind of behaviors that he shows. He is there to be Captain Man until he dies. Well, Henry has to live a life and pretend that he is living a life. Make himself believe that he's living a life. Final thing I want to point out here is the corn. The corn tells us many things. You see, the corn represents both the sweet tea and the soda, because both sweet tea and soda are made out of corn syrup. This corn represents how Henry knows that in the end of the day, he is both Henry Hart and Kid Danger. They are the same person. Now, Henry Danger. Perfect. We come to my other theory about this episode. When Henry was about to drink his sweet tea soda mix, Jasper appears from nowhere and makes him spit. Jasper, at this episode, at this moment, I think Jasper is Henry's guardian angel. Now, when we talk about guardian angel, we talk about death, like how guardian angels protect people from death. But I think in this episode, Jasper is protecting Henry from the mindset of believing that his two lives are separate. Henry asked him what he's doing here. He said, I'm here to have fun with you. And then Henry's confused. He brings a jukebox and asks Henry to open it for him. And then he does this. He hugs Henry and tells him that sometimes you need to tell the world, I'm gonna have fun, and I don't care what happens. And he defines that as rubber duck, the episode's name. Henry says, can I not just say that instead of rubber duck? Jasper clearly points out, no. Another thing that Jasper did in this scene is that he took Henry's horn and threw it right at him. That's the powerful symbolism. He is telling Henry, you know the solution to your life, but yet you ignore it. He threw it right at him, confronted him with it. Dude knocks at the door. The dude asks if he knows Henry. Henry says, no. Obviously, if a random dude comes to your house and asks, I want you, you should not say, yes, it's me. It's risky. It's dangerous. Jasper tells him that this guy is a person he hired to do their nails. Henry says, no, I don't want this man to do my nails. But then, he changes his mind when a pretty girl comes and even says rubber duck. This is important because the girl represents many things in Henry's life. You see, in the early seasons, Henry Danger episode was surrounding Henry and the girl that he likes. And Henry's excitement to continue with Jasper's plan after seeing the girl telling us that Henry wants the good old days. So the episode continues with a montage of Henry relaxing. And then the door bursts. Captain Man comes. Captain Man comes with a leaf blower and blows it in Henry's face. It's his Kid Danger life and shove it right in his face. He reminds him that this is not his life. He is Kid Danger. After doing that, he goes to make a sandwich. And then he sees his father's car and he's impressed. And then Henry said,
don't touch it. Don't even look at it.
Captain Man on the remote. Because Captain Man came and messed with his stuff. Here he is with his father's car and the footwall. And he saved it. He almost saved it. But the girl told him, your nails. And then he dropped it. Captain Man came and told Henry, you are Kid Danger. And his life got into ruin. And the girl tells him, hey, your nails. Is to remind him, hey, you are also an average kid. And then he drops, ruining his father's car, ruining his life. At this moment, Henry is telling us that his plan for his life was live as Kid Danger, manage Captain Man, and also live as Henry Hart separately. But this scene tells us that I don't think Henry, but it tells us that he cannot do that. What Ray does is go away. You may think that he will stay and help Henry, guide him through the life of a superhero. But what you have to understand is, Ray was Henry, and for Ray, the life was much harder. He got his superpower of indestructibility in a very young age, and his father, the scientist who built the machine that made him indestructible, changed Ray's life. He didn't grow up as a regular kid. At least Henry has this other life that he could regularly live. For Ray, that was not available. He could not have hope Henry was anything. It's not Ray's fault. I do have one complaint about this episode, is that it has less Captain Man. Captain Man is my favorite character in the whole show, and I'm sad that this is the only scene that he appears in, but not being around is more of a denial tactic. Henry's trying to live his life as Henry, and for him, the Henry life, Ray is not in it. Captain Man is not in it, because if Captain Man is in it, he is Kid Danger. After Ray leaves, Henry gets this toy car fixer to fix the car, and the guy tells him that he needs to pay $3,000 to fix this car because this car is a vintage car from the 1900s. What else was important in the 1900s? They were the secondary industrial revolution ended. We already connected Kid Danger to mass consumers. The industrial revolution was responsible to the culture of mass consumerism. So, by connecting mass consumerism to industrial revolution in the 1900s, we can conclude that this car is the Kid Danger lifestyle. This guy is telling him this is not going to be an easy fix. As the guy is explaining this situation to Henry, Piper and Charlotte come back. The manicure people also tell Henry that they need to be paid $50 for the manicures. The car fixing dude tells Henry, if you want to raise the money, why don't you throw a mani party where these manicure people will get other manicure people, and Henry gets his friends to his house and have them pay for the manicures. Then Henry could use the money to fix his dad's car. Henry agrees. During this second montage. Henry is narrating the same way he was narrating to Piper about his dream to this dude, talking about how the manicure lady that he liked came up to him and said, "Have you ever made spaghetti on a sailboat?" Your first response to this is Nickelodeon jokes. Haha, funny, so hilarious. I'm gonna die. But I feel like it has a meaning of freedom. I feel like this represents Henry's secret wish that I'm gonna talk about at the end, because it's kind of a spoiler for the whole show. So I'm gonna talk about the spaghetti on the boat at the end, and it's significantly important. Henry narrates. Why is he doing this? I mean, it feels a little odd that he's doing it twice. We'll come back to this narration later on. Charlotte tells Henry that they got the $3,000 he needs to fix the car. After giving the $3,000 to the car to a fixer guy, the guy fixes the car in under 5 seconds. And when Henry gets frustrated about that, the guy says, "Rubber dog." Now, this is very important. This guy is telling Henry that in the end, the kid danger life, painful suffer that he thinks he has, could be fixed in a simple acceptance. I also want to point out the additions of manicures and pedicures. Jasper got the manicure and pedicure professionalists so Henry could relax in this transformative experience that his guardian angel has taken him through. I think that's what the manicure and pedicure represents. It also could represent that creepy dude getting feet out. Back to the narration. I think this narration has two meanings that I cannot decide which one is correct. The first meaning, and the more simpler explanation, would be that the whole episode in general is just a dream Henry has, and that's why he's narrating in this odd way, similar to him telling Piper the dream. It could also explain why this episode is weird and different than the normal Henry Danger episodes. The second representation is that Henry is telling this dude what he wants. Hold on. There are similar things between the dream Henry tells Piper and the narration Henry tells this strange dude. Henry says in both scenarios that he saw a woman, either as the black-haired woman or the blonde manicurist. He also mentions a food of a sort, being the beans and the spaghetti. He also mentions the odd ending of the interactions. He is confused here because, again, this spaghetti on a boat thing, on a sailboat, has a meaning and is what Henry wants. And I'll explain that in detail later on because it's a spoiler. From this moment on, you cannot interpret much from each scene. Realistically, there's only one scene we can interpret. So I'm gonna hurry up through this section until we reach that scene. So Piper gets a phone call from her parents saying, long story short, they're coming back. Now Henry has a few minutes to end the party, cleans the house up before his parents come home. Jasper screams the snakes are loose. The people get scared. Henry, Piper, and Jasper clean up the house while Charlotte is trying to delay Henry's parents. In the end, Henry is successful and his parents come back with his father's car fixed. Well, his mother say is crap. Now, if Henry's father's car represents Kid Danger, the egg represents the Henry life. And because Henry was too focused on the car and he thought that the egg really is not that big a deal. Now, spoiler warning for people who don't want to know the ending of Henry Danger. Henry decides to go to this apocalyptic city and fight crime there. And I think the spaghetti on a sailboat represented that true desire of Henry. In the final episode, Henry was super hurt to find out that he didn't graduate. And also Drax had this evil, cruel plan to kill them. Drax, the former psychic of Captain Man. So at that moment, he could have decided to get back to school and get his degrees and go to Harvard as Jasper did. No, at that moment when he decided to go to that city, he did a Captain Man. He said, I have superpowers now, which he gained after saving the city from a blimp explosion. Henry realized what Captain Man already committed his life to do. He had the superpower. That means he needs to protect the innocent and weak who don't have superpowers. And I think the sailboat and the narration to that guy about the sailboat is him saying, hey, yo, maybe this is what I want. Getting superpowers and doing a raid and giving my life to a certain city to protect its citizen. And finally, when the episode ends, Henry looks at the cracked egg and says the iconic word, the episode's name, rubber duck. It throws the egg, cracks it on the floor. So he embraced the meaning of the rubber duck of living your life regardless of the struggles, of true acceptance of what your life requires of you. Sadly, no, I already told you, the egg represented the Henry life. When he said Rubber Duck and threw it away, he said, well, I'm gonna enjoy the Kid Danger life, but the Henry life, that was never a problem. So throughout this episode, throughout Jasper's efforts, throughout the Rubber Duck being called out multiple times, Henry ended up taking the wrong lesson from this episode. And I'm not saying that was a bad thing that Henry did, putting more soda in the drink. That's nice. But he forgot the most crucial thing, that he is also Henry Hart. And sadly, when he threw away the egg, it symbolizes for us, the audience, the end is near. As this is an episode in season 4. And season 5 is filled with episodes surrounding the Danger life. At this moment right now, Henry gave up on living the Henry Hart's life. In the finale, we will see the side effects of the egg breaking. We'll see it tumbling down. As a final thought, I truly enjoyed this episode. It was different. Again, my only complaint being not having much of Captain Man present. The first time I saw this episode, I knew it had more meaning. I like this episode.